1. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel like a lot of time fans blame companies for things that exist because of fans. Don't get me wrong, not saving any company, they are shady. But some of the things just don't make sense. Like fans say they care about talent over looks, yet idols who don't fit so-called idol image get constantly called ugly. RM, Changbin, Soyeon are one of the examples. But when idols try to fit those standards, like getting work done, they get dragged too, like what aespa members are facing now. Fans also claim they want idols to make their own decisions and prioritize themselves. But when idols actually do that, they can't accept it, like the Heesung and Hypen situation. Same with music. They say they respect idols' artistic freedom, but the moment an idol releases something they don't like, they start hating on them. For example, BTS's new album. And don't even get me started on dating scandals or fan wars between groups. They are just weird. By the way, love your videos. First of all, thank you so much. This means a lot. And I couldn't agree more. A lot of people will jump and say that it's the companies who pressure idols to go under the knife, and that's true. But who set that system up? Where did those beauty standards idols have to maintain stem from? Because let's say that these idols you have mentioned got some work done, whether it's their own choice because they see how much they're hated for their looks and their talent being overlooked because of that, or it's their company's choice. Will people be happy? Will they praise them? Absolutely not. That's why we see more and more anxious idols who are genuinely terrified of being on stage and doing the job they love. Let's take Plave, the virtual K-pop idol group, for example. They perform as animated avatars using motion capture technology, and their real identities are kept private as part of their concept. At some point, their real faces were allegedly leaked online, and instead of talking about their music or their talent, people immediately started attacking their looks. Before their real faces got leaked, people had no problem enjoying their music. Now, some act as if they can't enjoy their music anymore. You would think that if you are a fan of music, you would tune in for the music, not how pretty an idol looks. But what can I say about a world obsessed with looks? As for the Heesung situation, the company confirmed that after extensive discussions with all the members, it became clear that Heesung had his own distinct musical vision that he couldn't fully pursue within the group. Heesung himself wrote a letter to fans saying the past 6 years were some of the most precious moments of his life, and that he doesn't want his own ambitions to come before the team. So the reason he didn't just do solo work while staying in Hypen is that the group's schedule simply didn't allow for it. And still, some fans completely lost it. Fans claim to support idols unconditionally, and then the moment an idol makes a decision that doesn't align with what they want, suddenly that support has conditions. Like, how do you think the guy feels seeing his own fans protesting outside the company against a decision he himself made? I will actually make a video discussing similar topics mentioned here because I don't want this to be any longer. But what you have said is 100% true. 2. I don't think fans should make you hate the artist. And I know some of y'all have been through it with certain fandoms. I can say that the majority of aespa, NewJeans, and Blackpink fans on Twitter have been absolutely vile to BTS and ARMYs and multiple other groups, more specifically hype girl groups. But I cannot bring myself to hate the girls for what their fans do. The girls and their fandoms are two completely separate things to me, and I think people who let toxic fans ruin an artist for them are letting randos on the internet have way too much power over their listening experience. Hate the fandom if you want to, some of them have genuinely earned it. But the artists are just out here making music, leave them out of it. And I already know what some of you are going to say. Well, those fans harass my faves, so why should I extend them any grace? And that is a completely fair reaction, and I'm not here to tell you how to feel. If a fandom has made your experience genuinely miserable, your feelings about that are valid. This is just personally what I do. I personally choose to separate the art from the audience because I didn't want other people's behavior to determine what I get to enjoy. I have seen a lot of people saying they don't want to get into BTS because of their fans, and while they're certainly free to do whatever they want, they have to realize at one point that they can just listen to the music without engaging with the fandom. 3. The Unchild members have some of the worst stage names I've ever seen. I have honestly not been tuning much into this group, so I had to look up their names to find out if they're actually that bad. And I don't know, I think their stage names are super cute and memorable. But this comment sent me down a rabbit hole of truly terrible stage names given to idols, and let me tell you, they're much worse. Like if you thought Unchild stage names were bad, wait until you hear about Wormboy, Typhoon, Xmaz, Rose, Attack, and many other, let's say, unique stage names. I hope your opinion on Unchild stage names being the worst has changed now. 4. NMIXX didn't make a single good song before 2024. I think that's completely subjective, so it shouldn't be said in a way that makes it sound like a fact. I know a lot of people had a hard time with their sound when they first debuted. The whole mix pop concept they were going for was controversial, and I get why it wasn't for everyone. But for me personally, the only NMIXX songs I actually go back to are all pre-2024. Even OO, which was chaotic for lack of a better word, is enjoyable to me sometimes. I really like Love Me Like This and Cool, and I think many people enjoyed other pre-2024 songs as well. So I think it's better to say that their songs pre-2024 are not for you. Either way, you're of course entitled to your own opinion, and I'm glad that you are enjoying their recent releases better. 5. Triple S have a mid discography. Same as the previous one, I think this is completely subjective. For me, mid is a word I reserve for artists who are huge and talked about constantly, but whose music doesn't justify the hype. And I don't think that's what Triple S are. Triple S have a pretty unique structure as a group. They operate as a large collective of members who promote in different unit combinations, which means their discography is actually quite varied depending on which subunit you're listening to. From what I've heard from them, I'd say their output is solid, and there's a clear artistic vision behind what they do. Whether or not it's your taste is a different conversation, but the discography as a whole has more range than mid gives it credit for. 6. I don't really care if an idol sucks at singing live because at the end of the day, I will be streaming the studio version. Yes, it makes you a better performer and artist to be able to hold stable vocals on stage, especially when you have an audience expecting so much from you. But I don't really care about it to the point that I make it my whole personality to criticize idols' live vocals, especially if I'm not in the audience experiencing good or bad vocals. 7. I feel like people always talk about the things ARMYs do, which is completely valid because the toxic side of the fandom can be absolutely disgusting. But why is everyone, and I mean literally every K-pop stan, never talking about or calling out the dehumanizing hate BTS goes through every single day? There's a clear double standard in how people react when a non-BTS member gets dragged versus when a BTS member gets dragged. I don't know if it's envy, but that behavior isn't normal. The hate BTS receives has become so normalized that literal death threats are treated like a normal Tuesday for them. And we can blame it on the fandom how much we want, but if we're actually honest with ourselves, what ARMYs are doing is what every fandom is doing. ARMYs stand out the most because they are bigger. So the fandom excuse is honestly BS. I think it stems from a group, coming from an almost bankrupt company doing what not even the big three companies ever did. And y'all hate it. This is going to be a very long one, so please use the timestamps to skip to the next one if you can't care less. I'm not sure if this person is saying this in relation to my latest BTS video essay, so I'm going to clarify the intention of my video first and then reply to this. When I discussed a similar topic in that video, I meant it as in ARMYs who start shit unprovoked and then expect other ARMYs to join in the fight, or else they are called traitors. I focused on ARMYs in that video because that's the fandom I'm part of. ARMYs are the biggest fandom in the world, so of course different people come and say things that don't represent the fandom as a whole. And the noise these people make often gets louder. And I would absolutely love to talk about the dehumanization BTS receives on a daily basis. But judging by how absolutely sick I get reading those comments, I will not be able to contain myself. So I just leave it on Twitter for now. All that to say that I do agree with what you're saying. I used to think that I saw massive BTS hate because I'm part of the fandom, so of course I will come across people whose whole personality is to hate on BTS. But no, the hate BTS receives is genuinely on a different level. Yes, some of the time it's like a payback to what some ARMYs decided to throw at specific groups. But most of the time, it's just because these men breathed. And no matter what, fan wars should not get to this level of just absolute inhumanity. I'm sure some of you who are watching this are thinking, it can't be that bad. But trust me, it is bad. This definitely stems from envy and jealousy, because no one expected a group to make it this big when they didn't come from the big three. Everyone is also shocked to see that we are still by BTS's side even through all these hardships. And that, in fact, the fandom is growing by the day. If it wasn't because of jealousy, these people would make actual criticism, not, oh, but he looks like a girl. Oh, but he smokes. Oh, but he's dating. Oh, but he's ugly. And then they dare to pull the, if this was a female idol, as if one. BTS haven't been going through this amount of hate already without them being women. And two, those aren't the same exact people who are first to hate on female idols for those exact reasons. BTS have been receiving hate since the day they debuted. Everyone was looking down on them. And now that they've made it big, there's more hate being directed at them than ever. We're literally seeing BTS getting compared to rapists, pedophiles, and Nazis, and people clapping and laughing in the comments as if these are not criminals they're comparing BTS to. I will not sit here and say that BTS has done nothing wrong in their life, but the way people treat them for things they did and the way people treat other artists for those same exact things just proves that none care about the actual issue. They only want to justify their hatred towards BTS. Let's take K-pop idols' obsession with throwing around racial slurs, more specifically the N-word. Now, I'm not black, so this is not my place to speak, but I am educated enough to know that that's a harmful, derogatory word that shouldn't be used by non-black people, especially not in the big 2026 where everyone should be educated at this point. But when Blackpink's videos were resurfacing, when GD wore a shirt with the N-word in it, when Yoonseok casually said the Korean equivalent to the N-word, K-pop fans were quick to say, oh, but don't forget that BTS did this too. It doesn't matter if BTS apologized or not. It doesn't matter how much time have passed and how much they have grown as people and educated themselves on the matter. they will still get referenced and hated on when other artists do anything problematic. And I hate that so much because it just deflects attention from those idols who should be held accountable to BTS, who get held accountable literally every single day. So when I see armies defending BTS, I will not question them in the slightest because people are way too brave to shit talk on the internet. That said, BTS going through undeserved hate does not cancel out armies contributing to a culture that they have seen as harmful firsthand. I don't think defending BTS should come at the cost of dehumanizing other idols. Because if we're going to acknowledge the fact that artists get so much hate for nonsensical stuff, then we shouldn't be part of that. I'm on Twitter of all places, so I see a lot of BTS hate on the daily. But instead of hating the idols who have not done anything, I come at the fans themselves. Because my issue has never been with artists. It's with fans who hide behind, "I'm just defending my faves," as an excuse to be genuinely horrible to other human beings. I was going to say that I hope there will be a day where BTS are free from this dehumanization. But with the way they're getting bigger and bigger and the way more and more people are having access to the internet, I don't think that's happening. I still hope that people will treat them like humans for once. If you, for whatever reason, hate BTS, that's fine. You can have your reasons, no one is forcing you to like them. But if this hatred is making you a heartless creature, then I suggest you do the world a favor and kindly get yourself checked into a mental hospital. 8. Being in K-pop spaces has turned some of you into, respectfully, dumbasses. I could seriously knock on your head and it would echo because nothing is there. What do you mean you are, in all seriousness, saying Wonhee, who has just turned 18, has gotten buccal fat removal? She's 18. Her face is still literally developing. Baby fat doesn't sit there forever. That's just biology, and what being a developing human being with a face is like. But no, apparently we can't allow a young woman to simply age without you miserable beings immediately throwing the plastic surgery allegations. And to say that with such confidence and zero hesitation is honestly comical. This is the same community that will turn around and say we need to stop forcing beauty standards on idols and then spend the whole day dissecting an 18-year-old's cheekbones. The lack of self-awareness is actually impressive at this point, especially from certain girl group stans who will start hyperventilating if anyone talks about their faves in a different tone. Like, seeing this tweet, to be exact, made me actually laugh because that's how my face looks, and no knife has ever come close to my face. And what's maddening is that other people immediately start believing it and treating it as a fact. Just let teenagers grow up and look different at 18 than they did at a younger age. 9. I hate this minimalist trend that's been happening in the last few years. I got into K-pop for big, bold music, not YouTuber intro music. That's why I just can't get into new jeans. That's totally valid, and I can definitely see that recent popular sounds in K-pop are not everyone's cup of tea. Me personally, I enjoy almost every genre and every sound, so I definitely like new jeans' music. K-pop is big enough right now that you can fully opt out of an entire subgenre and still have more than enough to keep you entertained. The maximalist era is not over, though, so you could definitely enjoy some of the recent releases. 10. This whole comparing artists, songs, aesthetics, styles, makeup, etc. trend and forcing plagiarism claims is genuinely one of the reasons people can't enjoy K-pop anymore. The Sserafim's Celebration, Katseye's Pinky Up, and Illit's It's Me copying Blackpink's Jump debate is just another case of K-pop stans being schizophrenic. Now, before anyone jumps me, this is my opinion. I personally do not hear the resemblance at all. Like, I listen to and enjoy all 4 songs separately, but I have never thought, oh, I have heard this before. But at what point are we going to admit that not everything is a copy of something? This is a music genre we're talking about, and everyone is allowed to work in it. Artists in the West can have the same exact style and genre, and people will not be acting as any of these artists are stealing the other's musical identity. And if we're being honest, Jump itself was not exactly revolutionary. That sound existed before Blackpink touched it too, but somehow every group that makes anything remotely similar is a copycat now. Some of you hear a similar feeling in a song, and your brain immediately goes to the most famous version of that feeling, and you start freaking out, calling it copying. We've essentially decided that new groups are only allowed to make sounds that don't remind anyone of anything, which is insane in such an industry, by the way. And even if these songs were similar, so what? Why does it bother you so much? Please stop being this miserable over music. It shouldn't be that serious. And quit forcing plagiarism claims onto everything you come across. 11. Western validation isn't new in K-pop, it has always existed. Companies have been trying to enter the Western market since the first generation. It just started working out around 2016 to 2017. And that is a fact. K-pop companies have always pushed their artists beyond Korea. At first, it was Japan and China, and then it expanded beyond that, and they started aiming for the West. Companies have noticed online communities have taken interest in K-pop, so they had to take advantage of that. But the fact that it started working changed the goal. Because now that Western validation is achievable, the pressure to chase it has intensified in ways that are affecting how music gets made. We see more groups releasing more English songs than ever, with concepts getting softened to fit the Western market. And while some of it works beautifully, Some feels like watching a group sand down everything that made them interesting. That's why now we see people saying, K-pop is not Korean anymore, more than before. Even though English lyrics and sometimes entire English versions of already published songs existed before the recent success of entering the Western market. I don't think there's anything wrong in trying to appeal to the Western market, because I eat those songs up every time. But I do hope companies remember that what made the world fall in love with K-pop in the first place was its distinctiveness, and that there's always a difference between an artist genuinely connecting with a global sound and a company engineering one. This might be controversial, but the whole star power thing often feels like a sugar-coated or fan-pleasing way to justify including visually attractive members in a group. And the thing is, star power as a concept isn't even wrong. Some people genuinely have it regardless of how they look. But the problem is, it gets applied so inconsistently that it's lost meaning. Members who are conventionally attractive get described as having star power before they've done anything. Members who are unconventionally attractive but genuinely feel like they were born to be on stage rarely get the same label applied to them unprompted. Older groups disbanding doesn't ensure your fave's success. A lot of fans believe that K-pop has always been about replacement. Their faves are not getting enough attention because older groups aren't disbanding, and that's why they don't really have any spare space or position left to establish themselves in industry. Which is kinda stupid. This is actually the first time someone has brought this up. Do people really think like this? Like, do people actually think that in order for their faves to succeed, older groups have to step down? People do understand that you don't inherit a legacy or a fan base, right? Groups that disband often leave a gap that almost never gets filled by whoever stands thought would fill it. The groups that actually blow up do so by creating their own space, not by stepping into someone else's. K-pop not getting awards like the Grammy Awards has less to do with fans or the manufactured label and more to do with industry politics and money. 100% true. Korean artists are being evaluated by an institution that wasn't built with them in mind, using criteria that shifts depending on who's in the room. So things that are possible with fans or manufactured by the company, such as streaming numbers, cultural impact, and sales figures, still aren't enough, even though these are the exact things that would make any other genre an automatic contender. K-pop specifically gets hit with the manufactured criticism as if that disqualifies it, while country, pop, and Latin music, to name a few, all of which have their own industry machinery, get judged purely on the music. Just because a group is releasing music you don't like or doesn't hit you the way it used to doesn't mean they should disband, or it's better for them to disband. People are so entitled nowadays that they think if anything doesn't work for them, then it doesn't work for anyone else, and therefore should be disposed of. Like, I'm sorry, but the world truly doesn't revolve around you. The only people aware of your existence are your friends and family, and even they probably don't want to deal with someone so entitled. This whole trend of girl I'm bored, let's disband is so funny because it's always directed at groups who had a concept shift, and these people are not happy, and they must tell everyone that they're not happy. Like, girl, sure, I guess. I hope whichever group got this said about them continues to thrive and continue making music until they're in their 90s. Also, let's not forget that this is these idols' jobs. And aside from them not having anything to do with the production of songs most of the time, saying they should quit is quite a request. Let's take, for example, chefs. You really expect them to quit their job just because your ass didn't enjoy the food? All of this has to do with taste anyway. Okay, this was a ride, but that is it for this video. Everyone is, of course, allowed to share their opinions on everything mentioned here, but remember to keep it respectful. I will talk to you guys in the next one.